Warframe is no longer fun for me. Notice that I didn't say Warframe is a shit game, or that Warframe is not fun for everyone. I'm saying this because over the course of the past year, the game has felt worse and worse for me ever since DE released the second Dream. I don't know if it's simply because of corporate greed or because of that one Chinese company that bought DE, but whatever the case, I no longer enjoy the game like I used to. Allow me to give you my reasons why. First and foremost, the delays to the War Within. In my eyes, DE spent more time promising and hyping up the future quest rather than actually spending the resources needed to make it a fantastic update. You all know as well as I do how extremely hyped and delayed the War Within was, and you all know the final result was nothing even close to how amazing the second Dream was. Secondly, it's how progressively anti-player DE has gotten over time. Allow me to give you a few examples. The infamous universal vacuum debacle is the first and simplest example. If you're not familiar with it, basically the player base argued for DE to give vacuum to all companions, that way Kavots and Kubraus wouldn't be completely shit compared to the master race that was Carrier Prime. DE said no fuck you for a few months until they somewhat compromised and gave vacuum to all Sentinels, leaving Kavots and Kubraus in the dust yet again, but they nerfed the range of vacuum. Was the player base satisfied? Kind of. Did the player base get the universal vacuum they wanted? Fuck no. DE recently broke ties with Ignus Dei. Who is Ignus Dei? You're probably asking. Ignus Dei is the name of the player who designed the deluxe skins for Ashe, Trinity, Rhino, Oberon, Loki, Frost, Mag, Ember, and Banshee. Why was he let go? Because of creative differences over the design of Ember's deluxe skin. In short, Ignus didn't like the additions that DE was making to his design for Ember's deluxe skin. An argument started between him and the art team, and he was let go. This means that you can basically expect all future deluxe skins to be as shitty as Nova's, now that Ignus is gone. Let's also not forget how bullshit the RNG has become. For a developer that claims that it wants to reduce the grind, virtually nothing of the sort has been done. Let's not forget the introduction of Nitane. Let's not forget the new Void system, which some would say is more grindy than the old one, because Void keys could be shared, stockpiled, and sold easily. Now because of the new Void system, you have to spend additional time farming for Void traces to improve your chances of getting rare loot. Also considering how new primes basically come with their own new relics now, stockpiling is no longer possible as it once was with the old Void system, meaning everyone is forced to spend more time getting the relics needed for a chance at getting the new primes, or to spend some money. Let's not forget Riven mods, which have only increased the power gap between old and new weapons, and to this day are the shittiest addition to the game of this year. Lastly, my problem with DE is how they prioritize content. Yes, pumping out new content is important in order to prevent the game from getting stale and boring, but given how more often than not new weapons turn out to be nothing more than mastery rank fodder, this is just a waste of development resources. Here's a question, how about improving old content? How about improving the shitty sortie system that we have right now? How about actually buffing older weapons instead of giving us a mechanic that adds to the ever-growing RNG and power creep problem? How about updating the frames that haven't been touched in ages, like Hydroid or Oberon? All of that probably falls on deaf ears though, given how every Warframe rework nowadays is nothing but nerfs and a new mechanic or two. Yet what I find saddest of all is no matter how shitty an update that DE delivers, There will always be someone defending them for the changes, which is something that can usually be found in a place where censorship is common. Complain about Nitane, and he'll say that Nitane spawns at different times every day, so it's not DE's fault if you miss out on Nitane because of work, even though nobody ever asked for Nitane to exist. Complain about Riven mods, and he'll say that previously shitty weapons have never been as viable as they are now, meanwhile everyone else is running around with one of these. Complain about how Universal Vacuum still hasn't been truly implemented, and he'll say that you're an entitled min-maxer that wants to cheese through the game, and that stopping the fast-paced action of a ninja shooter with parkour elements in order to pick up loot is not a big deal. It's kind of sad how the Warframe subreddit is a better place for discussion than the official fucking forums. Digital Extremes is first and most importantly a business whose primary purpose is to make a profit. To that end, it's kind of hilarious to watch them say with a straight face that they care about the players while at the same time rolling this out as the next amazing Prime Access. I'll leave you with one final thing to say. Player-wise, Warframe is back to where it was months ago. Just because Warframe reached its all-time peak last month does not mean that everything's fine and peachy. Need an example? Compare the second Dream with the War Within. 1 month after the second Dream dropped, active player count dropped by hardly 1%, but it skyrocketed another month later, coinciding with the release of Saren Prime and the addition of bursts. Now compare that to now. While the active player count did surpass the original peak because of the release of The War Within, it's only 1 month later and the active player count has dropped by 30%, or by 45% if you use today's 24-hour peak. No matter what registered user data you're given at TennoCon or any other event, that's hardly important. What keeps a game alive is how many play it consistently, not how many have tried it at least once. If you want an example of how important active player count is, take one look at Evolve. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a loser. Thank you for watching.